It's time for Watts on Wealth Radio with Barry Watts and your host, Ralph Hipp.
Planning for retirement's a real endurance test with what markets going up and down and prices going one way, up, up, and up. Does your retirement plan stand up to the stress? Welcome to Watts on Wealth, featuring retirement designer and tax strategy expert J. Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation this Sunday. He's going to be handing out some tips and giving expert perspective on all things retirement. You might even learn something you can use to help you stay on track. So we're glad you're with us. Sit back and enjoy the next hour as we welcome back to the microphone J. Barry Watts. Barry, how have you been? Good to talk to you.
Well, hello, Ralph. It's good to talk to you as well, and good to be back in the Ozarks. I've been traveling quite a bit lately, and so much so that it sure makes me happy to land and be back home because the world's a beautiful place. There are lots of things to see, but in the end of the day, I really like it here in the Ozarks quite a bit. You've been on a trip, though, haven't you, Ralph?
Yeah, you know, we went to the same destination, and I was right in your footsteps there. Barry and I both traveled north of the border, and we were in Alberta. I was with a tour group from Kansas and other states. We went to Calgary, over to Banff, and then on the train to Vancouver and Victoria and flew back. And Barry, I don't know if you traveled outside of Banff, but you were in Alberta as well. That's a lovely province.
Oh, it is pretty up there. If you've never been to Banff, it probably should be on your list of places that you want to see in this life. It's quite gorgeous there. My trip was a mixture of work and vacation. Some of the companies we work with, when they roll out new investment strategies that will be of benefit to our clients, sort of the only way they can get the attention of the advisors to get to talk to them about it is to whisk them away to some secluded place where there's no internet. And there wasn't a lot of internet in the mountains there around Banff.
No.
And that's how they get our attention long enough to help us learn about the new products that can help our clients. So that's the one of the trips I was on. And on that one, I was able to take my family, my son-in-law and daughter. Right. And my other daughter, Sydney, and Kelly went with me. So we had a beautiful time. I climbed a big mountain there. Well, they tell me it's not really a big mountain, but it was a big mountain for Barry. And I was huffing and puffing, but I made it to the top.
Wow. You did that.
It's called Tunnel Mountain in Banff. So I would challenge all of you to climb Tunnel Mountain in Banff and prove that you're better than Barry. It probably won't be too hard to do. But it was quite an experience. I'm glad I did it, and I won't climb Tunnel Mountain again. That's probably my last mountain climbing event if I were just guessing.
I had seen that as well. I was mostly down on the ground. I was looking up at Tunnel Mountain, looking for you, and mostly taking some beautiful photographs. I got a picture of a lovely church. You probably saw too, the little village church with Tunnel Mountain in the background. But you were up there somewhere, so I'm glad you made it up and made it down. And it's kind of like retirement too, isn't it?
I have that exact picture. Well, let's hope your retirement is not as difficult as my climb up Tunnel Mountain. And Ralph, that's one of the things that we are always working to do here at Wealth Care, is to learn things and do things that make retirement easier for you. And that happens to be one of the reasons that we travel. In fact, I had taken our advisor team, it's a bunch of young guys. I took my teammates over to an investment advisor training conference in Cincinnati right before we went on the Banff trip. And that was miserable because American Airlines, God bless them, they let me off the plane too late in Chicago to make my switch to Cincinnati. And the long story short, there were no cars we could rent. It was the last flight of the night. We had to be there at 8 o'clock the next morning. We wound up hiring a driver with a beat up Ford Expedition who drove us from Chicago to Cincinnati, and we didn't get to our hotel until 5:15 that morning before our conference started at 8 o'clock. So that was a pretty rough trip, and it was par for the course in terms of how things have gone with American Airlines lately. So if there are any American executives listening, Barry needs a little extra spiff to keep him happy, because at this point he's kind of sour about that kind of traveling on your airline. But what are you going to do in Springfield? That's kind of our only travel option. So it's what we do, Ralph.
But it's you always say on our show, it's beautiful coming home to the Ozarks. And now that Barry's back home in the Ozarks, why not schedule that appointment? Let me get you his phone number this beautiful Sunday morning. Watts on Wealth. This is Ralph Hipp with Barry Watts, and that number, 417-200-3500 to schedule your appointment while Barry is on the ground, not up on Tunnel Mountain, 417-200-3500. So what would you like to share with us from what you've learned, your Cincinnati and your conference in Chicago and your trip to Alberta? What are some of the Watts on Wisdom lessons you want to share with us, Barry?
Well, the biggest wisdom is always take your own pillow. That's a start in the right direction. But stay home when you can. And, I've been home almost 2 straight weeks, and I'm kind of thrilled, although we're getting ready to go again next week, and I can't even remember where to. The next trip will be out to Salt Lake City. So a lot of travel this summer, more than actually normal. Hey, Ralph, I've got somebody in the studio with me, as we normally have. Matt Dean, one of our retirement designers here at the WealthCare Corporation, is guest hosting with me today. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hey, Barry. Welcome back to the Ozarks.
Thank you. I'm glad you're here with us today. We're going to tell some stories about life in our practice and how we help people. One of the first things that I want to talk about is kind of how our firm name, WealthCare, came to life in a very tangible way recently. I like to say WealthCare, the idea is that we put the care in wealth, caring for people. And one of our teammates, Wendy Parsons, demonstrated that magnificently just a week or so ago. We had a lady come in, a husband and wife team, who came to the office, and the wife entered several steps ahead of the husband. And when she came in, I wasn't here, I didn't see it, but apparently she was racked and sobbing.
Oh, yeah.
So you saw her come in.
Yeah, I was there for it. Yeah.
So she was sobbing when she came in the door. And Wendy, not knowing what the sobbing was about, just went out. And then the husband suddenly came through the door and said, "I want to see the big man." Well, the big man, I guess that's me. I wasn't there, so he couldn't see me. But Wendy, without knowing what was going on, she just went and put her arms around them and began to pray for them. And I think some other people in the staff, you may have been involved in that too, Matt, actually gathered around this couple in the lobby and just prayed for them and laid some love on them.
Yep, right there along with Phil Brown and John. And
so they had an accountant and a service person praying for them. So, we're a full service firm here at WealthCare. If you need to be prayed for, we'll take care of that too. In this particular case, the reason the lady was crying, I don't really even know the reason. She has early stage dementia. And her husband is the sole caregiver, and their family was just super duper stressed. And it happened to all come leaking out about the time they abruptly showed up in our office. Or I should better say, the stress was so tense that maybe they were driving by and they just decided to stop and see us. And apparently that was the right thing to do, because our team gathered around them and loved on them and cared on them. So that's a real symbolic way of expressing what we're really about, WealthCare. People think, well, you just manage money. Nah, that's less than 20% of what we really do. What we do is take care of people in retirement. And I had another example of that recently. Just this past week, I had lunch with a client who just one of the two, they're married, but just had lunch with the wife. And she wanted to express to me some things that she was concerned about with her husband and his mental condition, because he has got some dementia developing along the way. And so we had a nice time together. Anyway, I woke up the next morning to a text from her that said a number of things, told me about what was going on in their life. And then it wrapped up by saying this: truly, the newspaper ad all those years ago, because they came to us from an ad they found in the newspaper. Truly, the newspaper ad all those years ago has been one of the biggest blessings in our lives. So that was something that made me feel really good, Matt. If caring matters, you've come to the right place when you come to WealthCare. All right, I want to pivot real quickly and talk, if we can, in the rest of this segment about the Social Security crisis that's coming. Because there was some news released back a couple of weeks ago that indicate that the Social Security crisis is drawing nearer. The June report from the Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund, that's the Social Security Trust Fund. Well, a year ago, each year they issue a report. A year ago, they said the trust fund's going to run out of money. We're going to have spent everything we got stacked up in 2034. The latest report just issued last month said, oh no, the money's not going to last until 2034. It's only going to last till 2033. So we're about 7 years away from the Social Security Trust Fund running out of money.
I heard that with recent legislation passed this past January from the Biden administration, eliminated the windfall elimination provision. So that prevented a lot of teachers and public servants from getting more of their Social Security benefits because they had pensions provided to them elsewhere. And that legislation moved up the deadline by 6 months, kind of like to what you're saying, Barry.
Yeah, so we're glad that our teacher clients and other clients who had been outside the Social Security system are now getting a larger check. But the result for all of us is that our checks are all going to be smaller sooner. By the way, 2033 is when that had reduced. And guess who turned 70 in 2033?
Would that be you?
Me.
Ah.
So the first year I'm supposed to get my Social Security check is the year that Social Security runs out of money.
Uh-oh.
So what they really said, this is a direct quote, is they said the fund reserves will become depleted and continuing program income will be sufficient to pay only 77% of scheduled benefits. Because they've spent all the money in the Social Security fund, then starting in 2033, they won't have anything left to spend other than the money that people are putting in. So as employees put money into the Social Security system, it'll immediately come back out to pay those of us who are drawing Social Security at that time. Now, here's the big problem with that, Matt. When Social Security was first established about 90 years ago in our country, for every one person who was taking money out of Social Security, there were 42 people putting money into Social Security. Oh. Today, there are 3 people for every one person who's taking money out of Social Security.
And in just a few years, that will become 2 to 1. Is that right?
In 2030, it becomes 2 to 1. So the amount of money that's coming in is shrinking because the number of employees is shrinking. And yet the system is having to spend more and more because, look, I'm going to start taking Social Security one of these days when I turn 70 in 2033. So the last wave of baby boomers, and I'm on the tail end of that, are beginning to trigger their Social Security just as the number of people in the system are going away. So if you were a sitting member of Congress, Matt, and you had Social Security about to go in the dumper like this, what would you do to solve the problem?
Well, raise taxes.
Well, I don't think there's any other choice. They could reduce the Social Security payout, but I'm pretty sure that our listeners would be the peasants with pitchforks attacking Capitol Hill. They'd be across the street here at Congressman Burleson's office demanding to see him if they reduced the Social Security payout. So the only other solution is that they're going to have to raise taxes. And, you know, we've got the Trump tax cuts, which the big, beautiful bill has given us a little more runway on the Trump tax cuts. But the simple fact is the Trump tax cuts, they say they're permanent, but you had a little philosophy on that. Matt, share it with us.
Well, it only takes somebody who disagrees with that bill in just a few years to get control over the Congress and change that legislation. So permanent is maybe only permanent for who passed the bill.
Permanent until we have a Democratic administration, Democratic Congress, perhaps. So taxes are going to go higher. And that's one of the problems we have to deal with for retirees. And we're going to address that in the next segment of our show. Right now, though, Ralph, tell them how they can get a copy of a resource that'll be really helpful to them.
Well, the best way is to reach Barry, 417-200-3500, 417 all around the Ozarks, 200-3500. I would highlight Barry's book for, you know, we're all reading our paperbacks over the summertime. His is a dandy, and it's called Watts on Wealth. So be sure to get a copy of Barry's book when you call him and set up that complimentary conference with him, 417-200-3500. You know, guys, as much as you and Matt are chatting about Social Security, very knowledgeable about that, we call him Medicare Matt Dean. So we're going to discuss that next. And you're listening to Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation, along with Matt Dean. This is Ralph Hipp. We'll take a break and talk a little Medicare right after this.
Explore how Barry Watts can support your financial aspirations. Set a consultation by texting VISIT to 417-200-3500. Discover the possibilities at 417-200-3500 with a simple VISIT text.
Do you think you'll pay lower taxes in retirement? Really? Many people go into retirement assuming that, but end up paying as much, if not more, in taxes than when they were working. How taxes can affect your retirement is one of the chapters in Watts on Wealth, the latest book written by local tax strategist and retirement designer Barry Watts of the Wealth Care Corporation. Barry takes you through the many tax considerations you should make before you retire. To get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, call 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. The book is full of actionable retirement tips and strategies Barry has gathered from his more than 30-year career in helping families just like yours retire successfully. Get your free copy of Watts on Wealth, the book, now by calling 417-200-3500 or go to wattswealth.com. Advisory services provided through WealthCare Asset Management, LLC.
For a more confident retirement journey, get Barry Watts' Wealth Care Kit. Discover strategies addressing life's biggest retirement obstacles. Request yours by texting KIT to 417-200-3500. Again, that's KIT to 417-200-3500.
Welcome back to Watts on Wealth. And Barry, we've heard you talk many times on the show about the future of tax rates in retirement. This Sunday, you've got an idea on how to reduce at least one of those taxes. So what's in your tax bag of tricks today you want to talk about?
Well, Ralph, there are any number of taxes that are a great concern to us, and all of them collectively are certainly profoundly impactful on retirement. And what most people don't realize, if you just ask people, what do you think your greatest expense will be in retirement? A lot of times they'll say, oh, healthcare. Nope. In reality, it's going to be taxes. We actually do the math on it and see it every day in our practice here at WealthCare as we help people retire. And so one of the taxes that I want to talk about today and how we can deal with that tax is called the capital gains tax. Now, capital gains is just a fancy word for profit. If you buy a piece of property for, let's say, $100,000, and you hold on to that piece of property for a while and you turn around and sell it for $300,000, you had $200,000 worth of profit, right? So that profit then, when we start speaking about taxes, is called a capital gain. And the government has some rules about capital gains. The way that you're taxed on capital gains depends on how long you've held the asset. Now, Matt, if you've held the asset for 365 days or less, what is the tax that is applied to your capital gain?
Well, that's got to be the short-term capital gains rate.
And the short-term capital gains rate is the same as?
Ordinary income rates.
The ordinary income rate. So whatever tax bracket you're in, the top of those is 37%. Mm-hmm. So if you've held it for 365 days or less, you're going to pay at the 37% rate maximally if you're in that bracket. But if you've held it for 366 days, so you're just over 1 year, then it becomes a
long-term capital gain.
That's exactly right. And long-term capital gains, most people are on the 15% bracket for that. Up to about $96,000, you actually pay 0% in long-term capital gains. So if your taxable income is $96,000 or less, you pay 0%. If your taxable income is north of $600,000, you would pay 20% in capital gains. But for most of our listeners who are going to be somewhere between $100,000 and $600,000, then their rate is going to be 15% that they have to pay out to the government just for the privilege of having made a profit on that piece of real estate that they just sold.
And using your example, Barry, a 15% capital gain on a $200,000 profit, check my math here, that's $30,000 in taxes, right?
It's pretty good math for a boy who grew up in Florida, I would say, who has a finance degree from Missouri State. You got it exactly right. So that's $30,000 that just gets sucked away for absolutely no purpose, all because you sold a capital asset. And that capital asset could be a piece of real estate like we talked about, or it could be your investments. Because, in your investment account, as they're being managed year after year after year, sometimes you sell some of the things that you've bought for various and sundry reasons after they've gone up in value, and you have a capital gain in your investment account. At least we hope you do. That's the whole point, is to have capital gains in your investment accounts. And so the good news is, Matt, there is a way to avoid, really it's to delay, but you're going to see in a few moments, to avoid capital gains through something that is called first of all, you could use a 1031 exchange on real estate. Now, Matt, can you kind of explain how a 1031 exchange works?
Right. So if you sell a property, maybe it's a rental house, and you go buy a new rental house with the proceeds from that sale, then you don't have any taxes due.
That's exactly right. So you wouldn't have to pay the capital gain. You can just kick it forward onto the new house.
Right.
Now, here's the problem with that. Sometimes people are selling that house because they didn't want to be in the real estate business anymore. They don't want to hold those rentals anymore. So sometimes it was just you've owned O'Reilly stock and it's gone up to the moon, and you've got too much of it and you need to pare some of it back. Mm-hmm. And you can't just go buy a different stock and do a 1031 exchange on something like that. So we've got a new tool that helps. Starting in 2017, actually, 8 years ago, the Congress introduced something called opportunity zones. Now, an opportunity zone also takes care of the capital gains in a way different than the 1031 exchange. So let me explain it this way. If you've heard about rental property, you may know there's something in the country called Section 8 housing. They recently changed the name of it because that's what those guys in Washington do, is just change acronyms for no particular reason at all. Section 8 housing is now called the Housing Choice Voucher. But Section 8 housing, here's how it works. If you're the landlord, if you will be sure that your real estate meets a certain level, then when that real estate has been rehabbed to a certain level, the government guarantees that they will pay a portion of the rent for poor folks who want to live in your real estate. So it's the way that the government had for housing people and for paying landlords to keep the property up. It was something called Section 8. Well, here's what's happened that's different than Section 8 now. The government has instituted what are called opportunity zones, and they are very much in the same areas where there used to be Section 8 housing, but there are 8,000 different census tracts in the United States that qualify as opportunity zones. And any investment you make into those census tracts then takes care of the capital gain tax that you were about to have to pay. So no longer is it just a 1031 exchange you can do. You can actually do an opportunity zone investment. So if your stock went up and you sold the stock and you have a capital gain with a lot of tax on it, well, all you've got to do is take that capital gain, reinvest it over into an opportunity zone, and then you get to eliminate the payment of those capital gain taxes. Make sense, Matt?
Yeah, I think I'm following. So where are these opportunity zones?
All over the United States. They're everywhere. In fact, they exist in apartment houses in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in oil wells in West Texas, and in downtown redevelopment in a lot of big cities. You know, there are a number of redevelopment areas around the nation where they're taking the slums, basically dozing them in, and they're building new high-rise apartments and theaters and all sorts of convention centers and so forth. So any of those can qualify as opportunity zones. And so here's a little math on how it might work, Matt. Let's say that you had $1 million in capital gain.
Okay.
And the most tax that you could have to pay on that as a capital gain tax would be $200,000. So what happens is you put your $1 million into the opportunity zone. You had $1 million capital gain. You put your $1 million into the opportunity zone fund. And now that stalls, it puts a pause on your having to pay the taxes. Now follow me very carefully. Here's what happens. In about 18 months, what's going to happen is the company that you turned that $1 million over to is going to pay you back roughly 23% of your $1 million tax-free. You're going to use that 23% of your $1 million, about $230,000, to go actually pay the tax that was due to the government.
And I'd still have 30,000 left over approximately.
Well, you would have about 30,000 left over. That's exactly right. But what you're going to do is you still have your full $1 million invested in the opportunity zone. So the money that came out of it to pay the taxes came out tax-free. You still got your $1 million invested in the opportunity zone fund. And then what's going to happen is, well, I'll just explain it based on one that I saw recently. I don't think this one's still available anymore. We don't actually handle these directly at WealthCare. We refer through our tax company, WealthCare Tax Advisors, which is led by Phil Brown, CPA. We actually refer these people out to a company that brokers the opportunity zone funds. But here's one that recently closed. You could put $1 million into it. It would zero out your capital gain, as we just discussed. And then it would pay you 6% per year income tax free every year going forward. Now, 6% isn't too bad. And it's estimated to pay your principal back plus 100% gain. So if you put in $1 million, it's estimated that in about 10 years, it'll hand you back $2 million. Now, that particular investment, as I said, I don't think that one's available anymore. That one happened to be out in West Texas. It was an oil drilling investment, oil wells. Which, you know, we're using quite a bit of oil more and more now that we have a Trump presidency.
Drill, baby, drill.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more. Now, those numbers I just quoted you, they're not guaranteed, but they do come from a company that's got a long track record. And so the reason I know about that particular investment is one that I happen to personally make myself. And next year, when I have more capital gains, I will do something similar. And opportunity zones are being made permanent now in the one big beautiful bill. So we're going to be able to continue using opportunity zone investments, and they're very helpful. So Matt, this is an example of holistic advice that you get here at the Wealthcare Corporation, because opportunity zones are not an investment that we handle. They're something that we refer out to somebody else, but we do tax work. And in the process of doing tax strategy planning for our clients who sell pieces of real estate, or maybe who through their investments that we do manage have made great capital gains, well, we're able to bring another strategy to the table to help them eliminate the capital gains that they have to pay and keep that money invested in a tax-free place, so that it really turns things that were perpetually taxable into things that will never be taxed again. So that's one of the big benefits of working with our firm. We always have taxes in view, and we're always trying to figure out ways to help clients solve those problems. And that's just another example of a way that we solve that kind of problem for our clients who are preparing to retire. And oh, by the way, retirement's what we're going to talk about in the next segment, Ralph. But before we do that, I think you've got something to talk with folks about how they can come see Matt or me or somebody at the Wealthcare Corporation.
Absolutely, Barry. And thank you guys for that great discussion on taxes and the future of taxes. And, you can tell at Wealthcare, taxes are at the core, the very center of everything they do. Barry Watts designed the firm that way because he got frustrated hearing clients complain they couldn't get proactive tax advice from their financial advisor and their tax preparer. That's a totally different thing. They only looked at the numbers from last year and didn't proactively talk about strategies reducing the numbers for this year or the next year. So Barry went back to school and he got certified by the IRS in taxes, not tax return preparation, but in tax law and applying strategies for clients. So, friends, if you're paying more than you'd like to in income taxes and you'd like to reduce those taxes, call the Wealthcare Corporation. You don't have to wait for the week to get here. You can leave a message today, text the word visit. And from there, Barry and the team will talk with you about strategies they use to help clients pay less, in some cases, eliminate taxes on Social Security, and even achieve that beautiful 0% tax bracket. How does that sound? So call today. Leave a message or text the word visit. It's 417-200-3500, 200-3500. And somebody from the Wealthcare team will reach out and schedule a time for you to talk with an advisor about reducing your income tax bill. So that number, 417-200-3500. And Barry, you'd love for them to call right now, wouldn't you?
We'd be happy for them to call, and if they'll do that, they'll have a call from us on Monday morning, and we'll set up a time for them to visit with me or Matt or Jeremy or Joey or one of the other advisors here inside of our firm.
Very good. Guys, as much as you are knowledgeable about Social Security and what may be happening in the next few years, we'll be taking a break here and talking about taxes next on Watts on Wealth. And along with J. Barry Watts and Matt Dean, this is Ralph Hipp, and we'll talk a little taxes as Watts on Wealth continues right after this.
Unsure of how market volatility might impact your investments? Speak with Barry Watts, who can offer strategies tailored to withstand market fluctuations. Just text VISIT to 417-200-3500 to meet with Barry Watts today. Again, text VISIT to 417-200-3500. Prepare for retirement with key insights from Barry Watts Wealthcare Kit. Get your essential guide by texting KIT to 417-200-3500 and start planning today. That's 417-200-3500 KIT.
Glad you're sticking with us, and welcome back to more Watts on Wealth. This is former KSPR News Team 33 anchorman Ralph Hipp. I was the first anchorman for KSPR and delighted to be back on the air in Springfield, especially delighted to be here every Sunday on television and radio with J. Barry Watts, the main retirement wealth designer from the Wealthcare Corporation. Barry, when we retire, how long should we plan on retirement lasting? And how long does our money need to last? That's a key element here.
Well, Ralph, I would suggest that it ought to last until you die, because if your retirement runs out before your life ran out, then the last years of retirement are going to be pretty rough. You know what you say when that happens. Would you like fries with that?
That's
so
right.
You don't want to be 90 years old standing behind the counter at McDonald's having to say, would you like fries with that? So here's what we do, Ralph, at the Wealth Care Corporation. We say people are going to live to age 100. Now, Matt, when you sit down with a client and you start talking about income to age 100, what is their usual response to that idea of living to 100?
Well, I'm not going to live to age 100. That's a bit far-fetched.
Well, and I think that's true for most people. But the point is, when I first started in this business 32 years ago, we would plan people only into their 70s. And that was sufficient in most cases. Now, Ralph is in his 70s, and I'm not very far from it. And so I'm really glad we're planning a little longer now. We don't know how long people are going to live, but the point is we want to plan on you having enough money no matter how long you live. There was a recent survey done by the National Retirement Institute, and it said that only 1 in 4 people wanted to live to be 100. By the way, I'll tell you, I'm one of those, assuming I can have good health. I'd like to live to 100 because I like life and I enjoy relationships and the people I'm connected with and so forth. At the same time, if I didn't have good health, wouldn't want to be here because I know that I'm actually going to live in another place later that's better than this one. And I'm excited about that. The number one reason people don't want to live that long is because they fear poor health. So what are the odds of living to be 100? Matt, what do you think the odds of living to be 100 are?
Oh, gosh. Nowadays, maybe 1 in 10 people.
Oh, pretty close. Yeah, here it is. If you're a man, there's an 8% chance that you'll live to be 100 years old. If you're a woman, there's a 13% chance. But if you're married, a man and a woman married together, which adds some longevity because of companionship, if you're married, there's a 20% chance that one of the partners will live to be 100 years old. And so that's something to consider. Now, if a man lives to age 65, not far from me, Ralph's already accomplished that. Statistics say that on average, a 65-year-old man will reach age 85 on average. He'll live for 20 years. And if you think about what average means, half of the people won't live to be 85, but the other half of the people will live beyond 85. And so that's where we get the idea that you could live to be 90 or 95 or 100 years old or something like that. And one of the things that I think is interesting is that life expectancy actually increases with age. So the life expectancy is greater for a 65-year-old than it is for a 45-year-old. Do you have any idea why that would be, Matt?
No earthly idea.
Well, it's because the longer you live, the more you survive the things that could have killed you at an earlier age. Even though we tend to underestimate how long we'll live, if you're relatively healthy and you retire in your 60s, you need to plan on living another 30 years. And if you live another 30 years and you don't have a plan for it and a plan for how to pay for it, that's going to be a problem. And the problem, Matt, is that living comes at a cost. And one of the costs is just simply inflation. However much it costs you to live this year, it's going to cost you at least 3% more to live next year. And that's not a big deal. If you spend $1 this year, it's $1.03 next year. And the year after that, it's $1.06. And the year after that, it's $1.09. Now, it's actually a little more than that because we're not doing the compounding properly.
If only it was that simple.
So, Matt, just take a guess. If you had $1 today at 3% inflation in 30 years, how much does that dollar have to be to keep up the buying power?
Oh, I'm going to guess $3.
Pretty close. $1 today has to be $2.43 in 30 years just to keep up buying power. So here's what that means. If you retired on $100,000 today, and most people don't have that much in retirement, if you had $100,000 in retirement income today, you've got to have $243,000 in 30 years just to keep up with inflation. People say, well, there's no way I'd spend $243,000. Yes, you will, because we didn't add anything to your life. We just did the math on what 3% inflation is going to cost you, and you have to plan for this. And the good news is, Matt, here at the Wealth Care Corporation, we know how to help people plan for things like that. And it all comes back to the retirement income plan. So if somebody has this problem and their retirement income plan, when we do the calculations, it says they're going to run out of money. One of the solutions for them to pursue if they're going to run out of money is to what?
Well, they could work longer.
Work longer. That's exactly right. I don't think that's a very good idea. Is there anything they could do to make their Social Security worth more?
Well, They could work longer.
They could work more, and that'll contribute to their Social Security, but they could also retire later, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Because every year after full retirement age, which for me is 67, for you it's like 132. I don't know how long it is for you, Matt.
I don't know.
For me, it's 67. Every year I wait after 67. I told you I'm not going to take it until I'm 70.
Right.
They're going to add 8% to my Social Security check. So that can be a good solution that kind of helps. One of the other things, though, that people can do is they can build themselves a private pension plan that will guarantee their income in retirement. And a private pension plan, just like a public pension plan, if you work for the schools or wherever, will put a check, mailbox money in your mailbox every month. It really isn't in your mailbox anymore. It's in your bank because we just send it directly to the bank. But mailbox money sounds better than bank money for whatever reason. So that's the way private pension plans work. And if you don't have a private pension plan, one of the things that you should consider is creating one from the assets that you have saved for retirement. Now, Matt, when we get a retirement plan built for somebody, one of the things that we want to do, or even if they have a plan already, is we want to stress test that retirement plan.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about stress testing a retirement plan and what that looks like?
Well, we can put together a retirement income plan, assuming everything goes well. But Barry, you and I both know that not everything will go our way, especially in retirement. There's a lot of nasty things that the world can throw at us, like what happens if one of our spouses, passes away suddenly and unexpectedly? What would happen to surviving spouse? Or, later on in life, you get into your 80s and the concern of going into a nursing home becomes a bit more real and tangible. Well, what would happen if one person needed long-term care? What would happen to surviving spouse?
So how, but help me understand at a little more granular level. How do you do the stress test?
Well, we take a guess at what age somebody would require long-term care.
Probably early 80s.
Early 80s. And given just today's costs for what long-term care costs, we know, given a rate of inflation, what that could look like years down the road and how much money that would require, how much that would increase expenses in the event of long-term care.
So that's an extra expense that wasn't built in their retirement income plan.
Exactly.
So we just put a stressor on the plan. And the question is, does the plan break because we put that stressor on it?
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the other things that you can test is what happens if we have another great recession like we had in 2008 and the market just runs backwards by 40% or 50% or whatever it happens to be. What happens to your investment? That's a part of the stress testing process. It's all a part of what we do for clients when we're taking them through the 6 steps to retirement confidence, which is the process that we use here at the Wealth Care Corporation. If you're concerned about retirement and being sure to hit your numbers and don't know if your retirement can stand the stress, what I'm going to suggest you do is listen very carefully to Ralph Hipp right now, because he's going to tell you how to get some stress testing done on your retirement to make sure that your retirement is sound to handle whatever trouble may come its way.
Right you are, Barry. Friends, if you're worried about your retirement, having enough income so you never run out of money, protecting your principal from risk, one of Barry's basic concepts, or reducing what you pay in taxes, paying for long-term care, planning your estate, Barry and the team at the Wealth Care Corporation can sure help you out. Their 6 steps to retirement confidence process will from the start take you through each of those areas and build a solid plan to alleviate your worries. So if this makes sense to you, call right now. Schedule to talk with an advisor. Barry's number is 417-200-3500. You can call, leave a message, or text the word visit today. 417 around Springfield, 200-3500. Somebody from Barry's office will reach out right away and schedule a time for you to talk with an advisor about developing that retirement plan, which will give you confidence that everything is going to work out all right. And how would you feel about that? Once again, Barry's number, 417-200-3500, and call now. Don't wait for tomorrow. You can text visit or leave a message today. Well, it'll be time in a moment for the mailbag, which, Barry, right these days, it's our email inbox. And right after the break, Barry and I will get to some of your mailed in questions. This is Watts on Wealth, and we'll return in just a moment.
Curious about securing your financial future? Barry Watts brings expertise to your retirement plans. Arrange a meeting by texting VISIT to to 417-200-3500. Again, it's visit to 417-200-3500.
Imagine for a moment that an intense storm is pounding your house. Will your roof leak? Will the siding peel away? Will your basement flood? If your house is properly built and maintained, you'll be fine. But what about your 401k or your investments? The stock market has had a pretty good run the last few years, but is its current turmoil making you feel uneasy? Are you confident your portfolio is built to weather a financial storm? Now may be a great time to get a second opinion on your retirement plan. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare at 417-200-3500 now. They'll examine your portfolio and show you if your investments are in need of some weatherproofing. Call Barry Watts and the team at WealthCare today at 417-200-3500 to get your no-obligation second opinion. Don't let your retirement get caught in the rain. Call 417-200-3500. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk.
Market volatility can be daunting, but having a strategy in place can provide stability amidst the uncertainty. Consult with us to learn about approaches that address market ups and downs. Call 417-200-3500 to set an appointment and secure your financial footing. Again, just call 417-200-3500.
Time now in this final segment of the show to see what very interesting questions are in Barry's email inbox and your common retirement questions. So, Barry, here's our first one. And Matt, you want to join in on this with us too?
Be happy to.
All right. They say, we're both retiring in about 3 years. We've done pretty well and have about 10 different retirement accounts like 401ks and IRAs spread all over the place. The problem is we're not sure how to use these accounts in retirement. Which should we use for income first when we retire? We did a really good job of saving. It's just we don't know what to do now. Barry, over to you.
I would say congratulations on being so close to being retired. But when you tell me you've got 10 different retirement accounts, that's the first red flag that I see.
It's Matt, quite a bit.
How many accounts does the typical family need, husband and wife?
Oh, probably 5 together.
Yeah. And what would those 5 accounts be? Just help us understand why we only need 5 accounts.
Well, typically each spouse has a traditional IRA, tax-deferred IRA, and a Roth IRA. And then together, we typically see a non-IRA account.
That's right. So both need an IRA, both need a Roth IRA, and then together we have a joint account. So that's 5 accounts. That's a maximum number anybody needs. So if you got more than 5, you got too many in most cases. There could be an exception. Mm-hmm. But generally, you have too many. Now, eventually, we'll get down to probably only needing 3 of those retirement accounts. So why is that, Matt?
Well, if everything gets structured properly, so that we receive tax-free retirement income from the Roth IRAs, then we would have nothing left in the traditional tax-deferred IRAs.
So we would only have a Roth IRA for the husband, Roth IRA for the wife, and a joint account. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there we go. That's the kind of planning I like to see, keeping it good and simple. So, you know, if you as you've got it currently, you got 10 different accounts. What's the plan with those accounts, and how are you going to figure out what the plan is? Here's what I would suggest. You need a retirement income plan that coordinates all of those accounts together and coordinates not only your investment management, but your tax strategy planning. It coordinates your estate planning, coordinates in your long-term care planning, all in one all-encompassing holistic plan.
And the other question that I have is a principal protection plan. What is the risk management going on across 10 different retirement accounts?
In most cases, there's not any. They probably just own whatever mutual fund they were last in, or worse, they may be sitting all in cash, right? Because we see people coming in that way. So we can help you build that plan at the WealthCare Corporation. Just reach out to us today, and we'll get you pointed in the right direction on helping you answer the questions that have come to your mind.
Sure can. And once again, it's 417-200-3500 to Barry and Matt and the whole team. Here's kind of a similar question, gentlemen. My dad is 78. We've been talking about his financial situation, trying to get his affairs in order before anything happens to him. So I'm learning how unorganized things have been until now. And it seems every other week he's calling me. I found another CD. And I remember some other account I've got. So he's got them and he's not sure where they are. He's finding them. So how do I make sure we aren't missing anything when we're trying to account for all of his assets?
Well, we see this happen. And what I'm going to say is get a broom and sweep some more. Try to figure out and keep good track of everything that Dad has. You need to be building your own list, not depending on Dad's list, by the way. You could get the United States Postal Service informed delivery set up on Dad's account, where the Postal Service would send you the images of every envelope that's coming into Dad's account or Dad's post office box. And that way you would be able to see what companies are sending him mail. And that's a way that you might find an insurance account or a bank CD at a different bank or something like that. So just a little suggestion. You might want to set up informed delivery for Dad. I'm just going to tell you, you got to stay after this. I would encourage you to minimize the number of accounts they have. They don't need multiple bank accounts. One bank, one account at that one bank is all that really should be there. And all of their CD type investing, in my opinion, should be done through their brokerage account, where everything shows on one statement. You can usually get a little better yields if you're doing brokered CDs anyway. So it's a task, I'm telling you, but you need to get after it, because if your Dad dies and you don't have it all swept up, you're just going to have all this pain later when you don't have Dad there to answer questions that he might possibly be accurate on today.
So kind of round up the herd, huh, Barry?
Exactly.
Yeah, round it up and keep it organized. All right, our next one. I'd like to retire in 4 years. What should I be doing now to get ready? I don't think I'm ready to meet with a financial advisor like you just yet, but I'm getting overwhelmed when I Google and read articles about retirement. So I don't know what to do or where to start, Barry.
Matt, why don't you take this one?
4 years away from retirement, but not quite ready to meet with an advisor. My first question is, well, are you contributing? Are you continuing to save in your employer-sponsored retirement account? Are you continuing to put some money aside into your IRAs to help get prepared for that?
You know what my first question is? Why are you Googling and reading? And what is your basis for deciding if what you read is right or wrong? That's my first thought. My second thought is, why is it you're not ready to meet with an advisor? You know, this person reminds me of a sick person who says, boy, I'm really sick, but I'm not ready to go to the doctor yet. Well, you know, if you just delay long enough, you won't have to go to the doctor. You can just go to the undertaker. So the shortest distance to health is to go to the doctor today. And the shortest distance to retirement confidence is only 6 steps. It's the 6 steps to retirement confidence that you find at the Wealth Care Corporation. Call us. Call us now. You are ready for a financial advisor. We'll help you sweep up that mess that we talked about with the previous question. We'll help you sweep up the mess, get yourself organized, do a retirement income plan for you so that you know what your retirement is going to look like when you do pull the trigger and call it a day at work.
All right. Yes, friends, once again, Barry's number, 417-200-3500. And you'll feel so much better as you start to develop the 6 steps to retirement confidence with Barry, and how do the six steps from Barry apply to you and your family. You'll find out really soon when you make that call. Our next question, gentlemen, is, I'm thinking about canceling my life insurance. My husband and I have accumulated around $3 million of retirement assets, and we're planning to work for another decade. We love what we do. All of our children are grown up. The only debt we have is our mortgage. It seems silly to have life insurance at this stage of the game. What do you think?
Well, I think that your presumption that you don't need life insurance is potentially ill-informed. You could be right, but I don't have enough information to know. Many of our wealthiest clients have life insurance and wish they could have more. I'm one of those. I've got a lot of life insurance. Kelly would be all the richer if I died today, at least financially richer. So I personally use life insurance, and based on what I think your metrics are, you would say that I don't need it. But here's some things that you might be overlooking. First of all, life insurance accumulates and distributes money tax-free. It can be like a huge Roth IRA on steroids with no limits to how much you contribute to the tax-free account. Second thing is life insurance can pay for long-term care before you die. You know, really life insurance, the way you think about it, is really death insurance because it doesn't pay till you die. But if you use life insurance that has one of the accelerated benefits riders on it, so it pays for long-term care while you're still living, then what a great tool, because you're able to pay your long-term care bill with tax-free dollars. One of the other things I like about life insurance is it multiplies what you pass to your heirs. So if you'll think about it, if you put $1 in life insurance, instead of your kids getting $1 if you had died, your kids might get $3 instead of $1. So that's more money to go to the people that you care about the most. So here's the deal. To just abruptly say, well, I don't think we need life insurance anymore, let's be done with it. No. The way to do that is to have a comprehensive, holistic retirement plan design that starts with retirement income planning. It includes protecting that $3 million you've got from down stock markets. It shows you how to reduce taxes, avoid paying taxes on Social Security, avoid the penalties on Medicare. You might even get to the 0% tax bracket. Some people do. And how to pass your estate on to your heirs efficiently without any taxes or probate costs. And in that process, what will happen is it will become evident whether you need life insurance, and if so, whether you have the type of life insurance that is most helpful to you. And we can help you with that at the Wealth Care Corporation if you'll just give us a call.
All right. And repeating that number, get with Barry right away. You can text the word visit right now, right at the end of our show. Text visit, VISIT, to that number, 417-200-3500. And I'll repeat what I said before. How does the future of your life insurance policy affect you and your family now? So for your situation, get with Barry. Have a chat about that right away. Here's our next question to send your way, Barry. We're getting a divorce after about 30 years of marriage. I've been working outside the home for the last 5 years. I'm happy to have some work friends and income of my own, but I really feel I'm starting all over again, and I don't even know what questions I should be asking first. What are some of the things I should consider when planning for my future, this future with divorce?
Well, having an income of my own, that sounds like the former wife talking in this couple. Barry, jump in here. What do you have to say?
Well, first of all, I'm terribly sorry to hear that divorce is on the table after 30 years, and I wish I could talk them out of it. But if they're calling it splits after 30 years, I'm guessing that there's been 29 years of damage. You know, I've known people who've been married 30 years that said I've been happily married for actually 1 year. And I had 29 years of misery, and that sounds like it might be the case here. So my advice would simply be this: begin with the end in mind. When are you wanting to retire? And what is your sitting on the porch number, the amount of money that needs to be deposited into your bank account every month in order for you to have the money that you need to live on? You do that all in today's dollars. And from those two numbers, when you want to retire and you're sitting on the porch number, we can build a retirement income plan and see if it works. And we can keep adjusting the plan until your retirement income plan works, and then you'll know whether you're going to be able to pull the trigger and retire when you said you want to. We can help you with that at Wealth Care. And that's the kind of thing that we delight to do. So give us a call and we'll help walk through that process with you.
Sure will. Well, we've got some more great questions, which we'll have on a future show. Gentlemen, thank you. And if you have questions about taxes and retirement, anything in your situation, you'd like some professional perspective on how to think about those, call the Wealth Care Corporation. Their trademark 6 Steps to Retirement Confidence is designed to help you solve and cure and heal up those major areas of concern. So if it makes sense for you to take advantage of the opportunity and call, reach out by dialing 417-200-3500 to the amazing J. Barry Watts and to Matt Dean and the team. You'll leave a message and a member of the Wealth Care team will call you right back tomorrow morning and schedule a time for you to talk with one of their advisors and see if they can help. So once again, as we wrap things up here, it's 417-200-3500 is the number. No cost or obligation, just a conversation, and they can help and they can start helping you today. Barry, that's it for today. Thank you and Matt very much for the great show.
Great being with you today, Ralph, and we'll look forward to talking to you next Sunday morning.
Thank you, Ralph. Will, yes. And tune in for our TV show, Watts on Wealth. We're all over on KY3, Color 10, KRBK, or my former home at KSPR 33. So we'll hope you'll hear us again on the radio again next week for Watts on Wealth.
Thank you for stopping by Watts on Wealth. If you would like Barry and his team to help you make a plan to get to and through retirement, or would simply like a second opinion on your current plan, give us a call today at 417-200-3500. That's 417-200-3500. And join us again next week for Watts on Wealth.
Wealth Care Corporation provides tax strategy, tax compliance, accounting, and insurance services through its affiliate American Tax Strategies, LLC. Investment advisory services are provided by WealthCare Asset Management, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Past performance never guarantees future results. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for information and entertainment purposes only and should not be used as the basis for personal financial decisions without first consulting a qualified advisor. The information and opinions you've heard are believed reliable but cannot be guaranteed as to accuracy and completeness.